If you're feeling anxious, confused, or like you're losing your mind after leaving a narcissistic relationship, you're not. You're experiencing PTSD. The reality you lived in has shattered. The illusion has crumbled. But the good news is that shattering is also the doorway to your deepest healing and transformation. My name's Kaleah, and in this video, we are going to talk about the shattering of reality that we call PTSD after narcissistic abuse, and what you can do to regain control of your life. Now, what happens when you're with a narcissist is they are living a lie. Their reality is fabricated. And when you start getting hooked into it through love bombing and the kind of seduction that the narcissist does, you're entering a false reality. So you're giving up the truth, usually unbeknownst to you, you're giving up the truth to enter a false reality. Your mind starts to come up with coping strategies that will keep you safe in the illusion that you are living in. And let's talk about what that illusion is. It's usually that person loves me, cares about me, wouldn't hurt me, I matter to them, and we have a true relationship. I've heard a lot of my clients say, I never believed they could ever cheat on me because they were so focused on me all the time. And when we're in these relationships, we don't have the concept that we are a energy source, a source of supply. It just doesn't make sense to us. So what we do is we start making up excuses. We start taking too much responsibility when we're being gaslit or put down or dismissed or projected upon, blamed, shamed, all of those things that happen within those relationships. We find these adaptation responses to be able to stay in that relationship. But there's always a time where that phase of your life has to end. You're living a lie and you can only prop up that lie for so long. There's something I call the 2x4 over the head. First, it's a whisper that you hear within yourself, something isn't right. And then it's a shout that says something really isn't right. And then it's the 2x4 over the head. You're smacked so hard by some circumstance or event that you can't pretend anymore. Suddenly you see the truth, even if you don't want it to be the truth. It's still right in front of your face. And there's no way that you can go back to the way it was, even though you want to. There's a part of you that wants to. You cannot go back to that shattered reality because it's like a bunch of broken pieces. It's a mirror that has shattered, and there's a bunch of broken pieces all over the floor. And you can't pick those pieces up and put them back together. You cannot put the shattered reality back together. So the next step is you have to face the truth. What is real? What is fantasy? And you have to align with the truth that that person was really not capable of loving you. You were an energy source. They were using energy vampirism on you. They were using narcissistic techniques to control you. And you were sucked into that reality, but no more. The PTSD is what you're dealing with when that reality shatters. You're dealing with that anxiety because you've been completely disoriented. Your reality is disintegrated, so you're very disoriented, you're very anxious, and you might obsess about them, ruminate on them and maybe their new relationship because you're trying to make sense. You're shocked. You're in shock. You're trying to make sense of what happened. You haven't really caught up to what's going on. There's part of you still trying to reassemble the shattered reality, but you can't. Even if you go back, even if the narcissist hoovers you and sucks you back in and you go back, there's a part of you that knows this isn't truth anymore. You don't trust anymore. You've had a glimpse of what is real and what is not. And so the only way to really heal from that PTSD is to face the truth that that relationship was built on a fantasy, on a lie. It wasn't real. And you have to start anchoring into reality. I am here. I am breathing. I am okay. I am safe. And really start to anchor in. The trauma has already happened. The reality has already shattered. It's behind you. It's not in front of you. And so now is the time to focus back on you, on taking care of yourself, on rebuilding your reality based on truth. The first thing that tends to come up for people, other than the typical PTSD symptoms like obsession, rumination, anxiety, panic, fear, lack of purpose, lack of will to live. All of those symptoms also are wrapped up in this feeling of abandonment. And this is typically inherited abandonment. It's typically ancestral in a sense. It gets passed down generation after generation after generation, just as shame gets passed down. So this abandonment wound is an old wound. It's inherited and you are pretty much born with it, born with this fear that you're going to be abandoned. And in that narcissistic collapse that happens, you feel that abandonment very strongly. That wound comes up. It's almost like it gets triggered in a way it's never been triggered before. And this is your opportunity to look at how you have abandoned yourself. That you had to abandon yourself to hop over to that reality, to be absorbed into the narcissistic reality. You had to abandon your truth. You had to abandon your needs. You had to give up yourself for the approval and validation of the narcissist. And so now it's time to start focusing back on yourself, to stop abandoning yourself, to be able to say to yourself, who I am is important. My needs are important. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of being cared for. I matter. To start looking at what your boundaries are. A lot of people don't know what their needs are or what their boundaries are. What do I need and where are my boundaries? No, I don't like it when you talk to me like that. No, I'm not letting you in. No, I'm not answering the phone. No, I'm not replying to that text. These are boundaries that you set for yourself to take care of yourself, to protect yourself. And oftentimes we're so trained to feel guilty. I really should. Or he will think, or she will think. So we get in these mind loops of guilting ourselves and shaming ourselves. And we got to take a look at that and go, I don't owe that person anything. I don't owe them a text message. I don't owe them a response. I owe myself safety. So part of your healing process is to really create that safety for yourself and to work on healing that abandonment wound within yourself so you're not abandoning yourself anymore. You're not abandoning your needs. You're staying with yourself. And from that comes your rebirth. From that, you are birthing yourself into who you really are. And this is where your power is. The person you were with when you were with the narcissist was pretending. You had to pretend. If you were awake and aware, you could not stay in that relationship for 10 minutes. Not once the mask drops, and the mask drops pretty quickly in narcissistic relationships. when our reality starts to get confused, when we're accused of something that we didn't do, when we're shamed, when we're blamed, when they rage at us, whatever it is that happens, there's something that is usually going to start showing itself within the first few months of a relationship. And so you have to compensate and compensate and compensate by giving up pieces of yourself to be absorbed into their reality. So as you are in the rebirth process, you are taking all those pieces back that you gave away to be absorbed into the narcissistic reality. And you're anchoring into your true self, into who you really are, to acknowledge yourself, to acknowledge your needs, your wants, your desires, your worthiness, your beauty, your power. So there's an entire process that is important for healing that PTSD. That PTSD comes from a shattered reality, the PTSD after narcissistic abuse. And probably all PTSD comes from a shattered reality. If you get PTSD after a serious car accident, that kind of shatters your reality that you're immune to something like that. Or if you're in a war and you watch friends being blown up, that shatters your reality. But we're really talking about the reality that is shattered after narcissistic abuse or during the process of narcissistic abuse, when you can't lie to yourself anymore. When something happens or there's that final straw, that last straw, where you just can't pretend anymore. So if you are suffering right now from PTSD, from that anxiety, from that panic, from that obsession, from that rumination, from suicidal ideation, whatever it is that you're suffering from, there is a way out. And that is, you have to come to acceptance of the two realities, the fantasy and the truth. And you have to make a decision what you're going to align with. Are you going to stay stuck in the fantasy? Or are you going to pull yourself back and anchor into the truth? This is where your power is. This is where your healing is. And as you start to anchor and align, anchor into the truth and align with that new reality, the old one starts to fade. It loses its grip on you. And you find yourself thinking about other things like, what do I want to do today? What's important to me? What would be fun for me to do? Because in the beginning, you have no interest in life. All your former interests have disappeared. You have no passion. But as you start to pull yourself back and anchor in to the true reality, you'll start to wake up again. You'll start to feel alive again. You'll start to have interests again. You'll start to have passion again. But if you are stuck in the fantasy, that's where the danger is. So align with the truth, stand strong in who you are, and you will get through this. I want to thank you for being with me today. And if you are needing support for narcissistic abuse, for healing PTSD, I am launching a brand new narcissistic abuse support group that I think is pretty amazing. I have a lot there for people that you're getting actual support. This is not a forum. This is not just a bunch of people complaining about the narcissist. This is true healing. So check out the show notes. I'd love to have you join us. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next podcast.